What is going on, New York Giant fans? Welcome back to another video on the Big Blue in the Bronx YouTube channel. Hit the like button, comment, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you know when a live stream pops or a video drops. Appreciate y'all coming back. Share this out as well. It's good to hear the Giants bounce back in their recent practice against the Detroit Lions at Allen Park after a rough first day. But I'm so excited that football is back on Friday. We're going to get to see these two teams play, see how the Giants do. There will be a podcast out on Saturday. A lot of good stuff happening in the sports world, really in the football world, because baseball has been utter garbage. Thursday, which is tomorrow, we'll be doing the Patriots-Texans game where C.J. Stroud will make his debut, so tune into that. But the subject matter of this video, and I talked about doing the video on the Big Blue in the Bronx podcast yesterday, is the edge room. And what specifically in the edge room? My subject matter and the whole thing is going to be labeled why health at the edge spot will shape the Giants defense in 2023. Why is it going to be the X factor? Not the cornerback room, not the linebacker room, not the safety room, not this room, that room, whatever. I think it's going to be the edge room. Why health is the most important thing for the edge room compared to any other room on the Giants defense. We'll talk about it. Stats overview, pass rush personnel. Why is it the X factor in terms of health and play? And then a little something at the end. However, we have to get into a big announcement first. For the first time in the history of this channel, that's been running 3 long effing years and over 1.4K subs strong, we have an official sponsor. Yes, starting today, we are sponsored by the ticket vendors also known as SeatGeek. Looking to go to a concert, a Giants game, a ball game in general? Now you can with our help. Get $20 off your entire order with the promo code Big Blue in the Bronx. I appreciate SeatGeek for getting back to me, and now we're partnering with them. Every single live stream, every single video is going to be this sponsored by SeatGeek because we want to give you guys a good discount code. And once again, thanks to SeatGeek and also thanks to you guys, because if we were at 700 or 200 subscribers, we wouldn't have gotten the recognition from SeatGeek and been able to do this. Now we are, because we've grown so much as a channel, thanks to myself, our team, and also you guys who are constantly supporting, sharing out, doing all the good stuff. And listen, even if you're not a subscriber to the channel, or whatever, you know, if you have a friend who's not a Giants fan, maybe they're a Red Sox fan or a Jets fan or something along those lines, share out the code. That helps us too. That helps us put revenue into the channel. That way we're looking to upgrade at certain areas. But back to the original subject topic, The edge position. It is a crucial spot for the New York Giants defense this year. I believe it's going to be the main X factor. We'll talk about why, but let's go over the stats overview from last year. They were 13th in sacks, 6th in pressure percentage, and 1st in blitz percentage, which is pretty obvious because you have Wink Martindale as the defensive coordinator. Honestly, not bad. 13th in sacks, that's usually where Wink's defense ranks. If you go back to his Baltimore days in sacks, not a big sack guy, but pressure guy, top 10. That's very good. And considering the fact that you had a secondary which was injury struck for the last half of the season, with Fabian Moreau playing as the corner one, Nick McLeod, Cordell Flott, Darnay Holmes, and the defense really wasn't playing well in certain areas. That's a big ringing endorsement to the pass rush, the personnel that got it done, and Wink Martindale especially, and also the rest of the coaching staff, Drew Wilkins, whoever. And not just in the secondary, they dealt with issues on injuries and stuff like that, whatever. They also dealt with injuries in the edge room and a lack of personnel. Azeez Ojulari missed a crap ton of games last year. Kayvon Thibodeau missed the first 2 with the injury he sustained against the Bengals. And for the first 2 games, it was O'Shane Ximines, Tamon Fox, Jihad Ward. Maybe I'm missing 1 or 2 guys, but that was the edge room. So once again, the fact that the New York Giants defense was able to accumulate the stats they did in certain areas, especially when it comes to the edge rush room, It's a ringing endorsement to them, the coaching, everything else. Here is what the talent looks like in terms of the edge room. Azeez Ojulari, he had 5.5 sacks last year in 7 games, which we know he can make the jump. It's just whether he could stay healthy. We'll talk about that in a little bit on a bigger scale. 14 tackles, 7 quarterback hits. Kayvon Thibodeau last year, 14 games, 4 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, 6 tackles for loss, 13 quarterback hits. Then you move over to Jihad Ward, who played all 17 games last year, 3 sacks, which he ties his career high, 43 tackles, 13 quarterback hits. You move to Oshane Ximines, 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery, 2 pass deflections, 4 starts in 15 games, 24 tackles, and 8 quarterback hits. Tamon Fox, who played 16 games with the Giants last year, 1 sack, 24 tackles, a quarterback hit. Tashawn Bauer, who played with the Las Vegas Raiders last year, 6 games, no sacks, a tackle. That was pretty much that. After having a very, very strong preseason, he had 4 sacks, led the team. That's how he made the team. But with Max Crosby and Chandler Jones being the heads of that defense, he was not getting any playing time. And then, of course, you also have Haba Baldonado, who had 2 sacks at Pittsburgh last year, 25 tackles, 5 tackles for a loss, 2 pass deflections, and 15 career sacks in 4 years at Pittsburgh. So that's your edge room right now. Why in the world is it the X factor? Why isn't it the secondary? Why isn't it the safety room? Because, number one, Wink relies on pressure. We've seen this 100 times before. We've mentioned this 100 times before. But there's also a lot of variables in which it's not necessarily the edge room. You got a developing corner too either way. Whether Deonte Banks comes out as the starter, whether it's Trey Hawkins that comes out as a starter, those two will struggle. Either way, I can bet on it. Not that I want to be right on that, and I likely will be right. They're not coming out and playing like Sauce Gardner or Tariq Woolen. They're going to struggle. So they will need the most help possible. They're not going to put in a veteran over those two guys. At least I don't think so. Adoree Jackson will be on the other side. Cordell Flyer, Darnay Holmes will ring the slot. Which, if Darnay Holmes is the slot corner, you have more of a reason to enforce the pass rush, to put more pressure on the pass rush to get home with blitzes and just a 4-man rush as well. New second safety. This is not a huge one, but it's still a factor. Dane Belton or Jason Pinnock. Julian Love is not here anymore. The Giants felt comfortable with Jason Pinnock and Dane Belton and drafting Javarius Owens, and they let Julian Love walk. Belton, he's still got some kinks to work out. Jason Pinnock, he's not an elite safety. He's a role-playing safety. We've seen how well he's played this summer, but how much of that is going to translate into the regular season? They will need help back there. Defending the run, that's going to be a big one. The New York Giants were 28th against the run last year. For the first 4 games, I thought, it's not really a big deal, you know. I thought it was just a couple of big plays that hurt the Giants' defense. No. That's not the case. They were terrible against the run all year. When they decided to take Dexter and Leo off the field, it was an utter shit show. But also, setting the edges was not something that the New York Giants could do. It will be a bigger test this year because you do have Nacho, you do have Ashawn Robinson and Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams coming back, and maybe, I don't know, who's that 5th guy? Ryder Anderson and Jordan Riley. Whoever it may be, you have better depth in the interior, which will push the exterior to do better. Linebackers covering tight ends and running backs. That goes into the coverage stuff we talked about, corner to second safety. Micah McFadden, Darian Beavers, Bobby Okereke. Who's going to be covering tight ends and running backs? That also applies to safety. But there will be situations where the Giants are covering tight ends and running backs with linebackers. Now, here's one of the biggest elephants that I haven't really touched on in this video. I did mention how Azeez Ojulari was hurt for most of the season last year. If you want a total tally on games he played 7 in a 17-game season. Now, you could say, really, you could take one off because no one in the starter room played in Week 18. So 17, really push that down to 7 out of 16 games in which he missed technically 9. Kayvon Thibodeau was a Lone Ranger for most of the season. He did miss the first 2 games. Let's look at some stats. Obviously, the Giants were 13th in sacks, and that's a ringing endorsement on the room, the coaching. I've mentioned that a zillion times in this video. With Kayvon and Aziz in 7 games last year, the Giants averaged 3.4 sacks a game. One of the biggest examples you could pull out of your behind is that Washington game, the first time. They had 5 sacks. Aziz had a forced fumble. Jihad Ward had a forced fumble. Kayvon had a big sack in overtime. Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams got there. There was a lot of sacks going around for the defense that day. They had 5 sacks. I believe they had 6 as well. One of the times where Aziz was in, and so was Kayvon. With Kayvon, 7 games. Not Aziz. Aziz was out for injury. IR. With Kayvon only, 1.6 sacks a game, which is not going to cut it. And you could say, well, 1.6 sacks a game, that's not too terrible if you have that opinion. The next one, 1.5 sacks a game. That was 2 games. Well, in terms of that, you could say really 1 sack because Tamon Fox, that wasn't really a sack, though he does get the sack on the stat sheet. And then O'Shane Ximines and Julian Love, who got sacks in that Panthers game. 1.5 sacks a game in 2 games. That was when the Giants did not have Kayvon nor Aziz in the first 2. And here's the issue that comes to mind. The Giants obviously had room last year behind the first 2 pass rushers of Jihad Ward, Tamon Fox, O'Shane Ximines, any other guy I'm cutting out. It's not that much better this year. If anything, it's the same edge rusher room. And that could hurt the Giants. To Sean Bauer, veteran journeyman, he has 2 sacks in his career. Tamon Fox, he had 1 sack last year, didn't do much otherwise. O'Shane Ximines, who had the sack on Aaron Rodgers, had the sack on Baker Mayfield. Other than that, wasn't much of an impact. It was the first half, and that was it. And yeah, you could probably say, oh, well, Aziz went out and then he came back in, so that's just a matter of playing time. No, it's not. Aziz was injured for a lot of the second half, and O'Shane was not producing. And then Jihad Ward, yeah, he had 3 sacks. He's had that 3 times in his career. Last year, 2020, and with the Colts in 2018. So it seems like every odd year. But you can't rely on Jihad Ward to get you constant sack ringing numbers. He's not a pass rusher. He's more of a run stuffer. And again, if Aziz does go out, which maybe Giant fans are banking on this year, and that's not a good thing that they're banking on that. They just know, okay, Aziz is bulked up and stuff like that. But if he is out for a few games, and the Giants don't have another pass rusher to compete with Kayvon, Kayvon's going to be on an island. That's not a good thing. Kayvon will likely, at points, be going up against the left tackle and the right tackle, which will be an easy matchup for the other side. O'Shane Ximines, Jihad Ward. That's not anything to be scared of. And I think at this point, the Giants need to go out, whether it's free agency, trade like a 6th or 7th, or just wait for the waiver wire to go out there and get a veteran pass rusher. Jihad Ward is great. But, however, he's one-dimensional. He gets 3 sacks every so often. He's not a guy that's going to get you 4, 5, 6, 7. He doesn't have any valuable pass rush moves. Just look at the film last year. And this is more important this year than ever because the New York Giants can actually, if money is not too much of an issue, they can bring in these guys. because this is a win now year. This is not, oh, another growing year under Brian Daboll. No. The Giants need to win this year like they did last year. Maybe on the same level or a little bit more. Dexter Lawrence said it best. It's time to stop growing. It's time to start winning. And, obviously last year was a good sign in the right direction. It was a good step in the right direction. But there is no precedent on the table. There's no sign there that the Giants will have the same success, 13th in sacks and 6th in pressure percentage, if Azeez and Kayvon go down individually at the same time or whatever the case may be. And not to mention setting the edge is still an issue because Jihad Ward, he's like half and half with the running game. Sometimes he'll get blown up. Sometimes he'll make a really nice play. Kayvon, he can play the run really well. Azeez cannot. And I can't find you anyone in the backup edge room who can defend the run. Haba Baldonado, we have to see in the preseason games. Tamon Fox can't play the run. Oshane Ximines, easily the worst edge defender in the room. But here are some options to consider for you guys, and maybe for the Giants overall. Jason Pierre-Paul. I know, former Giant, yes, bring back the memories, the Pro Bowls, all these different things. He's not going to be the player he once was, and any of these players are not going to be the player they once were. Jason Pierre-Paul had 3 sacks last year with Baltimore. A not-so-good defense. Obviously a different scheme with Mike McDonald coming over from Michigan, whatever. 94.5 career sacks. I would trust Jason Pierre-Paul as a pass rush over Jihad Ward. I would trust him as a rotational guy as long as the money is not an issue. Obviously, yeah, once again, he is not the player he once was. However, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. I would take Jason Pierre-Paul over Oshane Ximines, over Tamon Fox, over Haba Baldonado, over Tashawn Bauer. It's the truth. The Giants need proven depth players at certain positions. And linebacker could certainly be another video which we talk about depth because Anthony Barr, that whole visit just recently got canceled. So you have Okereke, and then you have Beavers and McFadden. What happens if Okereke goes down? Then you got Beavers and McFadden, then Cam Brown and Carter Coughlin behind? That's not a trustworthy room you want to be dealing with. Though Micah McFadden has been impressing at least the last 2 days in camp. The next one is Jordan Jenkins. This is another option that's, again, not a player he once was, and he never really was a top-tier player in this league. He had 2.5 sacks in 2021, 25 career sacks total, but is coming off of a torn ACL. So don't really recommend that one, but if the Giants want to bring him in, I would say he's at the same level, if not a little bit better. At least he's shown in his career over a guy like Oshane Ximines. Now, with these guys, I will say I don't know how they defend the run, so if you guys like PFF grades, you could go look at that. The next guy is a guy who had some success last year and has had success, 3-time Pro Bowler, Melvin Ingram, former Charger, former Pittsburgh Steeler, former Kansas City Chief, now former Miami Dolphin. Had 6 sacks last year, 22 tackles, 10 quarterback hits, a forced fumble, played all 17 games. So you know he can be healthy. And once again, if money is not an issue, that's something the New York Giants should take up. Yeah, will it be a while for these guys to ramp up because they have been free agents? Sure. But as long as the first 2 stay healthy, you don't need to worry about, oh my God, the ramp-up period for Melvin Ingram or a guy like Jordan Jenkins or Jason Pierre-Paul. And there's some other options you can consider. Robert Quinn, I wouldn't necessarily go because when he got to Philly last year, he didn't necessarily do that great. And there's other guys, Jonathan Garvin, who was with the Packers for a few years. But I will say this to end off the video. You could talk about linebacker. You could talk about the development at corner. You could talk about the new safeties. I think the health at the edge position is going to be what either kills the Giants or makes the Giants' defense a lot better. It's one or the other. It's not going to be middle. It's going to be kills the Giants' defense or makes it stronger. We saw last year what Kayvon and Azeez can do off the edges. Again, in 7 games together, 3.4 sacks a game on average for the entire team. When Kayvon's just in there, 1.6 sacks a game. That was 7 games. And then 2 games, 1 sack a game, essentially, which isn't good. And that was without Kayvon and without Aziz. And one thing I will say as well, this is not to piss on the parade of Kayvon Thibodeau or whatever. I don't want to hear the excuses of he's being held. Last year, that was fine. He's a rookie, earning the reputation. Hopefully, he worked on his moves and his strength, because he's going to be going up against some power tackles in this league for years to come. He is the 5th overall pick of last year's draft. He will need to step it up. He is a game wrecker. Now, am I going to sit here and say, no, he needs 15 sacks this year? No. Do I think that he's going to get above 10 maybe in the next 2 years? No. Because it's very hard, and I said this when he was drafted, it's very hard for a guy in Wink's defense to get over 10 sacks. The closest anyone came of recent was Matt Judon. Before he signed with New England, he had 9 sacks. And I think he had 14.5 last year or 12.5, Pro Bowler, whatever the case may be, he's doing his thing over there. So I'm not going to set the bar, oh my God, he needs 11.5 sacks, because that's not going to happen in Wink Martindale's defense. In a traditional defense, it would need to happen. But I don't want to hear the things of he's being held, he's not getting respect. Earn your respect. Make plays. Do different things. Fix your technique. Get stronger. Stuff like that. But what I will say this, the Giants can't be building in the excuses either. Because if he's on an island due to Azeez Ojulari's injury and you don't have a capable pass rusher as a depth piece on the other side, then it's not going to work for Kayvon Thibodeau. He's not a one-man show. He's not TJ Watt. But anyway, like, comment, subscribe, do all the good stuff. Turn on post notifications so you know when a live stream pops for your jobs. Appreciate y'all coming back. Share this out. Do all the good stuff. Excited for the Giants to play on Friday. Love that they bounced back in practices. Once again, guys, we are now sponsored by SeatGeek. You can get $20 off your order with the promo code Big Blue in the Bronx. Share that out as well. But peace out, guys. See you later. Stay cool, and let's go Big Blue.